265.5, the official weight for Tai Tuivasa.
Alright, so UFC 325 just wrapped up, and I think the event was pretty good. It's been a slow process, but I've come to terms with the fact that mediocrity is the new standard for UFC events, so all things considered, I was pretty happy with this one. Yes, Alexander Volkanovski is the featherweight GOAT, yes, Benoit Saint-Denis is right in the title mix, and I'll talk about those guys a little bit later, but the guy I want to focus on is Tai Tuivasa. This guy is a real piece of work, man. He walked into Saturday on a 5-fight losing streak after a 17-month layoff where he called the entire heavyweight division trash while he was away. And then when he finally comes back, he literally looks exactly the same as he did before he left. And hey, I agree that the heavyweight division is in a very sad state at the moment, but this guy is the last guy who should be saying this, because seeing as Tai was somehow still a ranked fighter after 5 consecutive losses, he is one of the biggest culprits to how fraudulent heavyweight has been. And you know what? Now that he's made it 6 losses in a row, I think it's time that the UFC seriously considers cutting him. And yeah, in this video, I'm going to be talking about all this and more. But first, let's talk about the fights. I'm going to start off with Tai versus Taliesin, but I'll make sure to talk about the rest of the fights on the main card, so make sure to stick around for my thoughts on Volk, BST, and Huffy. Yeah, I don't know what Tai's been doing for the last 17 months since he's been away, but I know that it wasn't improving on his wrestling and grappling. I mean, at least he wasn't finished, but is this really the bar that we should be holding him to? The guy's been in the UFC since 2017, and he's up there for one of the most one-dimensional fighters on the roster. He clearly lost the first 2 rounds where he got manhandled in each round, and although he did win the 3rd round, it's only because Taliesin got tired from kicking his ass for the last 10 minutes. Tai had no defense in the clinch, he couldn't stop any takedowns, and when he was on the ground, he was either flat on his back or flat on his belly. Tai stepped away from the sport for a year and a half, and he didn't add any new layers to his ground game, and frankly, I don't think his striking has gotten any better either, so what was he even doing?
I had my time off. I think it played a really big part. Just didn't do shit. Ate, drank, chilled with my son. I watch a lot of people who have done very great things in this sport, and then they get to the end and then they don't really know what to do. So I just needed some time off. I've enjoyed myself. My whole career I've enjoyed myself. I've got to do the best shit, travel the world, party all around the world, fight the best people.
Okay, so the answer is he didn't do anything while he was away. Great. Look, if Tai decided to take a break because he wanted a mental reset while he was the best fighter in his division, then I can totally see the reasoning behind that. Like, hypothetically, if Islam Makhachev said that he was relinquishing the welterweight title so that he can take a break for a year and a half, I'd probably understand where he's coming from, and even more so, I'd feel pretty confident that when he made his return, he'd still be just as good, if not better than before, simply because he's just so damn good. One of the only real-life examples I can think of where this actually worked out for a fighter is GSP, who took like a 4-year break and then won the middleweight title in his comeback fight because he's the fucking GOAT. And I understand that it's very unfair to be comparing GSP to Tai Tuivasa, but my point remains, if Tai really thought that he was going to come back better than ever after over a year of partying and drinking, then he's delusional. And of course, the mental aspect of fighting is probably one of, if not the hardest parts of the game, but even still, I would say that Tai's biggest flaws as a fighter were always his conditioning and ground game. I don't know, Tai's never really struck me as a fighter that succumbed to the pressure of fighting under the bright lights. Like, he's always seemed like a guy that enjoyed the fight week experience. It just seems a bit misguided that by his own admission, while he was away, he focused more on partying than learning how to fucking sprawl. Not every UFC fighter needs to be a champion, and furthermore, I don't expect every UFC fighter to want to be a champion. It's fine by me if Tai doesn't want to dedicate himself into becoming a championship level athlete, but there has to be some sort of middle ground between that and what he's doing now. The guy has shown quite literally 0 signs of improvement since his UFC debut. He's on a 6-fight losing streak, and if it weren't for the fact that he drinks beer out of a shoe when he wins, then he probably would have been cut by now. By the way, the last time that we've seen him hit a shoey was almost exactly 4 years ago now, so what the fuck are we even doing here? I get that people like Tuivasa. I like Tuivasa. He seems like a chill dude. But if Yoel Romero was cut from the UFC off of a 3-fight losing streak, then I think that we should be having a conversation on if it's time the UFC cuts ties with Tai so that he can hopefully get his act together. And for what it's worth, I don't want to see Tai get cut, but I wouldn't be shocked in the slightest if the UFC lets him go. If it weren't for the fact that heavyweight is a steaming pile of dog shit at the moment, then I'm pretty sure that Tai would have been cut like 2 losses ago, but not only do they need bodies in that division, but fans like him, so I get it.
Bro, the heavyweights shit. They're all shit. Except for John Jones and Tom Aspinall.
Right.
Other than that, fucking everyone's pretty standard.
That means there's a path for you to get right back there.
Exactly. So that's the thing. I've had my time off. I'm going to get back into training. I'm going to get myself ready. I'm going to get myself around a good team. And I'm going to, I'm going to get back. That's all. They know. It's all right. I'll be back.
So I cannot tell if this is a moment of self-awareness or a lack of self-awareness. Mind you, I don't disagree with what he said, but Tai is a contributing factor as to why the modern-day heavyweights are kind of shit right now. Tuivasa is the modern-day Tank Abbott. Both of them don't know how to defend themselves on the ground, and even though their bread and butter is striking, they're not even that good of strikers when compared to the other guys of their time. The idea that Tai was somehow going to make some sort of glorious comeback where he captures the title this year is absurd. He just doesn't seem very dedicated to being a professional athlete. He's a one-trick pony that's not particularly good at his one trick. He almost missed weight this past week, and I haven't even mentioned that yet, and now that he's lost his 6th in a row, his laziness might lead to the UFC releasing him, but I guess we'll see. Okay, I've already put in more effort ripping into Tai than he puts into his career, so I'm gonna move on. Let's talk about Volk versus Lopez. I think that Lopez needed another fight or two before getting this rematch. Their last fight happened less than a year ago, and it clearly wasn't enough time for Lopez to make any meaningful improvements, and now that he's 0-2 against Volk, I think it's going to be hard to justify giving him a 3rd title shot anytime soon, and that is not Diego's fault. If the UFC offers you a title shot, then you'd be dumb not to accept it. But the UFC is just way too eager to have a Mexican champion that they rushed him into a rematch that he wasn't ready for, and Lopez is the one paying the price for their impatience. I think that Diego is a really good fighter, and if it weren't for Volk, he probably would be champion right now. And you know what? I actually think that Lopez has the talent and the tools to beat Volk, but in their last 2 fights, I found myself questioning his game plan, or maybe it's just his fight IQ, I'm not really sure. When he fights anybody else, he's good at pushing the pace, but in his fights with Alex, it just feels like he's never able to get out of first gear. I understand that Volk's footwork makes it so that his opponents can never set their feet, but even still, where are the adjustments from Diego and his team? Yes, there are levels to this, and Alex is a couple of levels above Diego, but I just feel like Lopez hasn't done a very good job at fighting like he wants to take the belt. That's not to say that I think he did bad. I mean, he put up a better fight than Yair Rodriguez, Korean Zombie, and maybe Brian Ortega, but it was just disappointing to see him fall for the same exact tricks that he fell for in the first fight. When it comes to Volk, it is pretty obvious that he's the featherweight GOAT, but I will also say that I'm getting increasingly nervous each time he steps into the octagon. The guy's 37 years old now, and I don't love the fact that we've seen him get dropped to the canvas in his last 4 fights. I know that he still has what it takes to beat guys like Lerone Murphy and Movsar Evloev, but I'm not gonna lie, a part of me was hoping to see him retire in the octagon on Saturday. Volk definitely strikes me as a guy that will keep fighting when it's clear father time catches up to him, and even though it seems like we haven't reached that point quite yet, it does seem like that day is getting closer.
You know, I thought I could have done more in there. I definitely thought I could have done more in there, but at the same time, do I need to do more in there when I'm the champ? You know, 37, he's the guy that's meant to be this aggressive young guy. How much more aggressive should I be? You know what I mean? Should I, play that game? That's why I watch it back. You know, I felt like I was being patient, just picking my shots here and there, and I didn't expect fight of the night, so I'll watch it back and see how I was.
Regardless, I'll be rooting for my Hobbit King Volk until the day that he retires. Benoit Saint-Denis looks really ugly when he fights. His style is predictable, but the guy gets it done. I've actually been a BSD truther for a while, even when he took those losses to Poirier and Moicano, so I'm glad to see him bounce back with 4 straight wins. And as much as I like Dan Hooker, I think the UFC needs to be a little bit smarter with the matchups they give him, because it's beyond obvious that just continually putting him up against strong wrestlers is going to end up with him losing. And I only say that because it's clear Dan's never going to be a champion, and that's fine. Every division needs a fun journeyman type of fighter. Instead of putting him up against other strikers like Mauricio Huffy, Rafael Fiziev, or even Max Holloway, they keep matching him up with opponents they know he's going to get held down by. Dan Hooker versus Dustin Poirier is like my 2nd favorite fight of all time. I don't understand why they don't lean more into that style of matchup for him. Credit to Prostituta, he did fight well in the first round, but I feel like it was just an inevitability that BSD was going to get the fight down to the mat, and this was just yet another example of Dan not knowing how to escape the bottom position. BSD says that he either wants to fight for the belt or the BMF in his next fight, and I do not think he deserves either, so maybe put him up against Paddy Pimblett or Fiziev.
Michael China of the White House. I'll see you at the top.
Speaking of which, I hate to say it, but I think Rafael Fiziev has turned out to be quite the disappointment now that we're a couple of years into his UFC career. I don't know if I ever thought he was going to be a champion, but I did think that he could have aspired to be a top 5 lightweight, but after his losses to Justin Gaethje, where I felt like he fought like a bonehead in both fights, and of course now that he's been knocked out by Mauricio Huffy, I think it's time for me to admit that he's not the fighter I wanted him to be. Obviously, he's a great striker, but he's not even a top 3 striker at 155, and unless he magically becomes an insane wrestler out of nowhere, I just don't see a path for him to be a top tier lightweight. I do think that he should seriously consider moving down to featherweight because he just looks small in there when standing next to legit lightweights. I think that he would be a great addition to 145, and he might even be closer to the top of that division if he can make the weight. That being said, what a win for Huffy. After like 2 minutes into the first round, I thought he was going to lose the fight because he looked kind of timid, but you can literally see him gaining confidence as the fight went on, and then he scored that right hand knockout. It is hard for me to forget that he got manhandled by BSD not too long ago, and I am very doubtful that Huffy will ever make his way to a title shot, but I think he's fun to watch and he has a unique style, plus he looks like a pirate, so I like him. Anyways, that's the video for today. Definitely let me know your thoughts on Tai Tuivasa. Do you think it's time the UFC lets him go, or should they hold on to him? As always, if you like the video, then like the video, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do so. I appreciate you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.
Yeah, I need to look at me. I need to get back in the gym. I need to get fit. I need to get ready.
What are we at these days?
Oh shit. I'd be 140 easy.
140 kg.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds good. I don't know what that is in pounds, but it sounds pretty lean.
It's big.
Okay.
Whatever it is, I know it's big.
Okay.